just me at the time. Just me like playing. It was actually really stressful. I
I
was like
can't
playing the
imagine.
guitar and then like jump to the keys and then like play back the guitar and like I didn't really know what I was doing.
Well, our podcast is all about you, your journey in music, and how you got to where you are now. And we'll talk about the new songs that you've been releasing as well.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome, awesome. I did see you're from San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah. I grew up, well, not exactly San Francisco, but I grew up in a suburb south of there, like 30 minutes south of there.
What
Um,
part? I lived up in. I'm from San Diego originally, and then I lived in the Bay Area for about 5 years.
oh, nice. So I grew up in a town called Los Altos.
Okay, I know Los Altos.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I just say San Francisco, but then when people are actually from California, I'm like, all right,
Yeah, they get
it. Not
it.
quite San Francisco.
Yeah, I lived in the East Bay, so I would always claim San
Nice.
Francisco, but I was really closer to Oakland. So,
Nice. Yeah.
so tell me about growing up there.
It was good. I mean, I feel like I had a great childhood growing up there, like quiet suburbia, but close enough to San Francisco. Like that was where I would go on the weekends, or that's when I would always go see shows. And got really into music by going to concerts up in the city and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah, it was good. I mean, I definitely had a nice like little situation for myself for sure.
Where would you go see shows at in San Francisco? Like what venues would you go to as a kid?
I would go to like the Warfield a
Oh,
lot.
sure.
The Fillmore. I don't remember actually seeing anything at Bill Graham when I was younger, but then
You played there, right? I mean,
yeah, I played there, which was like one of my favorite shows ever.
that's cool. I mean, to play like a hometown show at that venue, like that place
Yeah,
is so sick. I love that venue.
yeah. I think the first concert I can remember going to at Bill Graham was watching Swedish House Mafia on their last tour or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and I just remember being like, man, if I could ever play here, and
Sure.
then got the opportunity to do it. So it was pretty awesome.
That is cool. I remember seeing I saw Avicii there on like he played there.
Oh,
I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2010 or 11.
that's
I
awesome.
lived up there from like 2010 to 2014 ish in that
Nice.
era. But yeah, that place is so sick, especially for like electronic music.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the perfect venues for electronic because it's like you can go anywhere within the venue, and there's like the
Right.
big floor, and you can go upstairs if you need to like chill out and get out of the pit.
Yeah, totally. That's right. So, well, aside from going to shows, how did you get into music as far as like playing?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing piano. Like I was doing like classical lessons once a week ever since I was like 7 all the way through high school. So I've always um, been into music, and then I got more into like popular music, and I like picked up a guitar in middle school, and then so I would just like jam around with friends making music in middle school and high school. So I've always been like into it, but I never really thought I was going to do it as a career. Like my dad is an engineer up in the Bay, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life growing like up and going through high school. So I like went to school to study engineering.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and when I got into school, I like hated it. I was like not into it.
You go to
But
school in San Francisco or?
no, I actually I went to USC in
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, and it was like a kind of a wake up call that I like felt like I was no longer not even close to the smartest kid in the room. Like everybody else was so much smarter than me in my engineering classes, and they were so much just better than me and understood engiring.
But you had to be pretty bright to get into USC. I mean, even
Yeah,
generally.
yeah, definitely. But I guess like when I was in school, I just like, and that was also an interesting time because that was when like Avicii and Swedish House and all this like electronic and Skrillex, like all this electronic music was just like bubbling. And I had like listened to dance music before with like Daft Punk and stuff.
Mhm.
But like when I heard like Avicii and Skrillex and Dead Mouse and all these artists for the first time, I was just like, what is this music? Like, this is so tight. Like, and I just immersed myself in it. And then was just like messing around in my dorm room, honestly, just like trying to make beats and like make anything remotely like close to as good as what those guys were doing. And that's kind of how the project started, really, like as a hobby, and me like not wanting to study engineering.
It's like on your downtime, you just make music in your dorm.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Like I would even make beats in like the library with my headphones on and stuff. Like supposed to be studying for like an exam, and I'm just like sitting there making beats.
Well, how did it all kind of start then? Like, what was the first thing that's really got the project off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I basically like once I felt like my music wasn't like terrible, I basically uploaded it to SoundCloud and just messaged like music blogs and YouTube channels being like, hey, like if you like this at all, like please feel free to post. And it kind of like started from there. Like I did a remix for Ellie Goulding, Burn. Like it was like a,
oh wow,
I literally just like ripped an acapella off the internet, the only like good quality one I could find, and then I remixed around it, and then I posted it online, and it just started like racking up plays. And then like the label like reached out to me basically like, hey, we want to like sign this remix to our label. And like, wow, that was kind of just like the beginning of everything starting to happen. Yeah. And then I started
instead of them going, hey, can you take that down?
You know, yeah, I know. Like, hey, can we monetize this and make money off this?
Right.
Basically. And yeah, that's really how it started. And then I started getting other labels asking me to remix some of their artists, and that was sort of how I began my relationship with Interscope, who I'm signed with now. Is they asked me to remix like Maroon 5 and Years and Years several years back, which turned into like it got in like that movie with Zac Efron and stuff, and then it just really like snowballed from there. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, I can either pursue this, which I really love doing, music, or I can do like an engineering degree, like pursue an engineering job, which I'm not as in love with. And then, yeah, when I graduated, I basically decided like, I'm going to go ahead and pursue music, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow. So in the beginning though, you were just kind of remixing other people's songs.
Yeah. I really was.
When did you put out your like first song? Like, you know,
so that came later. That basically came when I signed with Interscope, and then basically was like, I don't want to just remix artists. Like I love to do remixes. Like they're really fun, but they're not as like creatively rewarding, I guess. So I basically was like, hey, I want to work with Interscope and develop my craft to start doing original records. And that was when Heading Home came out, and that was 2016, I think. Dang. And yeah, that's kind of how that process started. But it was weird for me back then because remixes were like really, really popular back then. Like I feel like don't have quite the same impact nowadays as they did back then.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that. Remixes were huge in the mid like 2012 to 2015 era.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a really big deal back then, and not as much anymore. But that was sort of how I got a name for myself, was just like the vibe that I was creating with the remixes. And then it was about translating the remixes and like the production and style into like my original music, which actually was kind of hard actually for a while, like figuring that out. But now I pretty much only focus on my original music. So
right. When you did Heading Home, well, tell me what like emotions you're feeling when you had put that out, because I mean, if you were only doing remixes, were you worried that it was just gonna do like flop? Or I mean, you know, that's kind of
I mean, I was definitely nervous about it, way more nervous than putting out the remixes. But I felt really like I felt very emotionally attached to that record, and I felt like it was a really good representation of where I was as an artist at that time. So kind of like, I mean, I was obviously hoping for it to like do well and be well received, but I wasn't going to be disappointed either, because at the end of the day, like I was really proud of that song when I was putting it out.
And it did. I mean, it killed it when it came out.
Yeah. I mean, it did pretty well. Like, it's still like it's still like a very has a special place in my heart. And Joseph Salvat is an awesome dude. So I was happy to be able to work on that track with him.
Was that connection built through Interscope, or did you know him?
It was through a guy that was helping A&R Records at the time, and he sent me this, like, it was just a verse basically from Joseph, and it was just him like on an organ piano type thing, and I was like, oh, I love this guy's voice, like I love already like some of the lyrical content of it, and then he connected us and we like basically built it out from there.
Oh, awesome. When you write, do you play piano still on like the songs, or is it mainly done through okay.
Yeah, I usually do. It depends. I'm not like, it's very rare that I'm tracking like an actual like acoustic, with mics and all that stuff. I've done it sometimes, but usually it's just like MIDI and whatnot. But a lot of pretty much all the tracks that have piano or guitar, it's my playing into them that go to the real recordings.
That's amazing. So so you do use a lot of that, knowledge, obviously growing up with the classical piano or learning piano.
Yeah, definitely. I think like my doing all that classical music and whatnot growing up like really did benefit me. Just in terms of like knowing chord progressions, music theory, and just like also in the studio when I'm writing with people, like I can change keys very easily and like pivot when I need to, depending on like how the writing is going and whatnot. So
that's
definitely
amazing.
helped me. Sure.
Yeah. With what about live shows as far as that goes? Did that start when you were gaining a lot of traction with the remixes? Would you DJ parties and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was doing that. But then also like, so I DJ'd a few things like fraternity and college type stuff early on. But then when I signed with an agent who I'm still with now, Latney, I basically was like, well, I'm doing so much piano and guitar in my tracks and music, like I would love to sort of like pump the brakes on the DJ stuff, at least right now, and be able to like do a live show and a live tour, because there's so much like real instrumentation that goes on in the music that I wanted to be able to like showcase a different type of electronic show and perform live. And that was kind of like, how it began. And then started doing like a few festivals here and there. I think like the first one I ever did was Electric Forest, actually.
Wow.
And then
you did that with a live band, like a live set?
Yeah, it was just me at the time. Just me like playing. It was actually really stressful. I was like the guitar and then like jump to the keys and then like play back the guitar, and like I didn't really know what I was doing. But it was fun. It was definitely fun. And that was Electric Forest is like honestly one of the coolest festivals. So to have that be like one of the first ones was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And then, so you put out that first record in 2016, and then through 2017, 2018, you put out, a handful of singles. You got to work with like Quinn 92 and a bunch of Illenium and a bunch of big artists. Were you remixing songs as well as, working on these singles, or was it really just focusing on your own songs at this point?
I mean, I would definitely do some remixes every once in a while. Just because sometimes it's fun to like almost with the remixes nowadays, I use them as opportunities to like push some new creative ideas out there and see like what sticks. And then so like and sometimes I'll just get an opportunity to remix an artist I'm like really excited about. I really love the song, so I'm like, oh yeah, I would love to get in and flip it into like my world.
Sure.
But back then, 2017, 2018, it was definitely about like, that was when I was starting to get serious about like, all right, I kind of do want to put out like an album. for myself and for this project. And so a lot of my time was definitely more focused on original music, but I love doing a good remix here and there.
And that's when you put out Gravity, right? Your full length record.
Yep. That was like, we put out like part 1 in late 2018, and then the rest of the album came in 2019.
What was it like to finally put out like a full record?
It was awesome. I mean, it was like a 2-year process, honestly, putting together that album. And yeah, it was cool. It was definitely more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just like, one day I was like, I think I'm gonna do an album. And then like, so like nonchalant, thinking like it was gonna be like super like well executed, it's gonna get done in like a few months, and then it just became like this grind. But it's like super rewarding, honestly, though. Like, it was so stressful finishing it, but now that it's done and like out, I'm just like very proud of it. And now I'm like, I kind of know what the process is like too, and which has helped me a lot for this next one. I'm finishing up.
Very cool. And then that's the record that you were able to do that big tour, play Bill Graham Civic, and I know you came through San Diego, and I was there. You played Soma and some pretty cool rooms. And that kind of ran into the end of the year, right? You were touring up until the end of 2019.
Yeah, basically I did 2 bus tours in 2019, and then top of 2020 I was in India and Asia to like kick off the year. And then COVID happened.
Oh my gosh. So where were you when COVID hit? Were you at home yet?
Oh man, it was actually crazy. I was like I was like riding the COVID, I was like surfing the COVID wave at that time. It was nuts. I was in India. I guess it really, I mean, it's really not a great situation right now, but then it was okay. But then I was in Korea and Japan. And even then, like the shows, it was starting to break back then. But my whole team and I were like, let's just wear masks everywhere. Let's be really cautious and make sure if the fans still want to do the shows, then we'll go ahead and do them. But there were some people that opted out. Like some fans were like, we don't want to take the risk and we don't want to be there, which is completely fine.
Sure. So you'd see like a sellout show and then only like 2/3 the crowd or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I know, it was only like 5% of the people that were like opting out. So it wasn't that much at the time because it hadn't gotten bad yet. But so we basically left Korea, and like a week later, it was like shut down. Like everything was like full lockdown. And then we flew from Korea to Europe, and I was in Italy and Spain doing some shows out there. And then like we literally flew out, and then a couple of days later, like Italy totally shut down.
Yeah, they were really bad for a while. That was one of the big hot spots too.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, we flew from Europe to New York City, and we're in New York City for a few days, and then we left, and then New York shut down. It was crazy. And my tour manager and we like tested for antibodies and everything, and got a lot of COVID tests back then. I can't believe we didn't get it, honestly.
That's good. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
So you were literally riding the wave. Like you were kind of hitting each city as the thing was coming through.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh.
It was getting crazy. Yeah. It was wild.
I'm glad you're able to make it back safely. That's
I know that's another thing. Like almost got stuck, I feel like, all those times.
Yeah. I can imagine they shut the borders down like pretty quickly here. I mean, you could have been stuck in, Europe or Asia.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a crazy time.
Oh my gosh. So then everything's locked down, and are you at this point, what do you go to the studio? Are you working on new music because now you can't go out and perform?
Yeah, basically, like just I had a whole summer of shows. I think I had like 100 shows on the books or something for 2020.
Oh wow.
And they just all went away. So basically, yeah, it was really about just getting used to like life at home and developing somewhat of a routine and whatnot. And yeah, just making a lot of music, honestly. It was, I mean, obviously it's a awful situation what happened with COVID and everything, but I guess I can look at a few things positive. Just like I was going so hard for 3 or 4 years that I didn't really give my body like a chance to take a break and rest.
Sure.
And that kind of enabled me to do that. And then I've been able to spend a lot of time with my wife and dog.
Mm-hmm.
We've been spending a lot of time out in Palm Springs. I've been like golfing a lot.
Oh, nice.
Like a huge hobby of mine now.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, and then I had a lot of time to make music. So I can take some positives from definitely a difficult situation. So
sure. I mean, you put out some amazing records last year. I mean, and the new one that you put out with 2 Feet is incredible. I love 2 Feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were those songs that you were able to work on like during this whole quarantine? Like, were you writing them at home, or were you being able to get to a studio?
Yeah, I mean, basically just a ton of Zoom, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one with Audrey Mika, Save With Me, we got into the studio twice in person to finish that one up.
Mm-hmm.
But with Bill, that was like all remote. And I'm trying to think what else. I didn't put out too much stuff last year, but the Chris Lane record was like all remote.
Was that him sending vocals over to you? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's just like, so a lot of the Zoom stuff is more like us talking, and like, it's like, it would be like me and you talking, and I'm playing the guitar, I'm playing some stuff, and he's hearing it, and we're like riffing off ideas. And once we like, it's almost like the equivalent of like when you're in the studio and you feel like the idea is there, and you're like, all right, well, now go into the booth and record it and track it. And then that's when we would like stop the Zoom session for the most part. And then he would like do it and then send it back to me. And then we'd like link back up a few days later and work on it and stuff.
Did you like that way of working, or do you prefer the in-person?
I mean, I definitely prefer in person. It's funny though, because I've been like doing a lot of sessions with writers again, now that things are kind of opening back up. And all the writers are kind of like, but I kind of miss like being in my house and right. having my own coffee and being able to like mute and like go feed my dog. And like, there's all this stuff that you like, or like another, like someone was saying to me the other day, it's like, she's a great writer. She's like, I miss like just being able to like wake up and do the studio. Like now I have to like get done up and like
drive
in front of people and stuff. So there are like certain things that I feel like the writers and artists kind of got into like some habits during COVID, but there's no better feeling than like working on music with people in the same room though.
That's sure. And so are these songs going to be part of another album or EP, or what do you?
Yeah. I'm working on album number 2 right now. I'm like, I definitely would say I'm more than halfway.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like really excited about it. It's a lot of, it feels more cohesive than Gravity actually. Because I feel like COVID has actually given me time to like sit with the music more and really come up with, like an identity for what I want this album to be. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different like styles within dance music in there, but it still has like a cohesive feel to it. So yeah, I've been like, hopefully can get this thing done in the next couple months, but it's feeling really good right now.
Amazing. And then when you do you seek out the artist yourself now? Like, do you find 2 Feet and say, hey, do you want to work on a record together? Like, how do you find the people for the album?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it depends. Like, if I'll either get sent like some demos or something that I like really vibe with, or I'll have like a beat of mine that I then pass out and try and, or like play for writers and they write to it in the studio, or I'll just DM artists and be like, hey, I'm like a huge fan. Like, would you want to work some music together? So honestly, every song kind of has like a different beginning, I guess, how it starts. But with the artist stuff, like a lot of it is honestly like DMs. It's pretty crazy.
That's funny. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, when they say like it always goes down in the DMs, like it's very, very true. It really
That's
does.
so funny. I'm sure like these, like 2 Feet, for example, are probably like shook when they see a DM from me, like, hey, I want to work with you. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah, like even when I did the song Need Your Love with Noah Kahan, like
Uh-huh.
or Noah Kahan, like I actually DM'd him like in the summer of 2019 when we were finishing Gravity. And I was like, yo, I'm like a huge fan of your music. Like, would you want to collaborate? And he literally texted me back. He goes, dude, I was just drunk at your Lollapalooza set last weekend. This is insane that you're texting me right now. Like, and then I flew to New York like the next week and we worked on the song. So
That's
um,
so rad.
yeah, it's funny how it works out like that.
Very cool, man. Well, I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. And thank you so much for chatting with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I do have one more question with you or for you before I let you go, if that's cool. If
Yeah.
you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Yeah. I mean, I think right now as an artist, there's so much like noise in music that's being put out. So it's like almost overwhelming in a way to like figure out how to make your music stand out. And I just think like definitely try and have something, whether you're a producer, have some sort of sonic identity or uniqueness to your music, whether it's like an instrument that you play or your voice or something that you can kind of differentiate about your sound and your music, to stand out amongst the noise. And then another thing is to just not be afraid to put your music out and finish tracks. I think that was like one of my biggest problems when I was a producer early on was I always felt like I had good ideas, like, oh, this is a good chord progression, or this is a good little riff or sound. But then I never took that concept and like finished the song. I think that's like a really valuable thing that producers miss out on is to like not learn how to finish records and like put records out. And if you can get to that level, I think it'll help you get like constructive feedback and see like how people react to your music, whether it's good or bad. Like it still really is valuable to like go through that motion of finishing, putting out music and like seeing how it does. Bringing it backward.